Hi, I'm Mike Coyle. You're watching Inside Exploration. Today I'm here with the RJK Exploration Management Team and Chairman Robert Mackay and Lead Consultant Gino Chitaroni. Thanks for joining me today, guys.
Thanks for being here.
So, Gino, I don't think a lot of RJK shareholders have had an opportunity to see or hear from you. So talk to us about how you got involved with RJK Explorations.
Actually, got a call from Glenn Kasner, and he basically talked about, he knew who I was, and we met through the NPA, Northern Prospector Association, knows that I'm very active in the Cobalt area, and said that my background and experience and could be quite an asset to their team, and then introduced me to Robert, and the rest flowed from there.
So talk to us about your role in helping RJK. Like, what was your key position?
Well, I'm pretty much multifaceted because I also have a municipal background. So because I've been a long-time resident and been here a long time and involved in exploration, I come at it from multiple facets within the exploration and the area point of view. So part of what I do for the company is I bring people together, and that could be prospectors, or could be companies and prospectors with properties, and bring them to the table and see if the two minds can meet and make a deal. The other part of that is work with different parties when it comes down to dealing with municipal politicians, local people, interested parties, possible investors, right over to First Nations. So I kind of cover the whole thing.
So I think it's safe to say that you played a role in helping RJK develop the land package that they now have in the Cobalt Mining Camp.
Yeah, I definitely had a part of that, yeah.
And Robert, you've often told me the story of how you guys came together, and you touched on it in a press release, but I think it's important for people to understand that this is a homegrown story of success. So, how did you get pulled into the fold?
I retired in 2013, and I was enjoying my retirement with my grandkids and traveling and doing some fishing and things. But every morning I would read the Kitco news releases. And one day I saw February 5th, 2019. I still remember the day. I read the RJK story about the Nipissing Diamond, and immediately I phoned my brother, who also is from the mining school. And I know Glenn from the mining school. We were both at the mining school at the same time, Haileybury School of Mines. So we all remembered the same story. In second year, Dan Atchison, when we were at the Dana's Manual of Mineralogy, he would talk about the Nipissing Diamond and say that he always hoped that somebody from the mining school would find the source of the Nipissing Diamond. So then we started to build a team, because people build companies. And so basically there was Glenn and I, and so we thought, well, we have to expand our land position. Best person that we knew was Gino. Yep. And so Gino started bird dogging for us with different properties and who was talking to who. And one day I get a call from Gino. He says, Robert, you better call Al Khan, because De Beers is all over him. And he says, another mining school guy, but you better call him, and you better call him quick. So I called Al Khan. 3 days later, Glenn meets him. They shake hands, just like a prospector and a mining guy does. They shake hands, and the deal was done. And that was our first Kimberlite, thanks to Gino. And so we have a team. My brother's from the mining school, Gino's from the mining school, Al's from the mining school,
Peter,
Glenn Kasner's from the mining school, and we were all born and raised up here. My grandfather behind me was the second policeman in Cobalt. And so it's a passion for us. We believe in that mining camp, and we've always believed that there's more there. And boy, have we proved that out.
You certainly have. But okay, so the Nipissing Diamond, you know, you heard about the stories. I know I heard about them as a kid growing up around here too. And you've been kind of the front runner, Robert, in doing a lot of the research and trying to track it down. And I know you've taken it to quite the extent of figuring out people who are claiming land around here and whatnot. But where did you track the diamond to? Where is it now?
We did a lot of research. And the Bishop family did a lot of research, and we hired family members of the Oban family to track the lineage. And we found different pieces of the diamond, but the chain of custody, we couldn't prove that that chain of custody was actually from the Nipissing Diamond. It came from we tracked it back to the 1920s, but we couldn't go any further than that. And so we couldn't use that data. So then we thought, well, let's find out who staked the claims around our property during the time where the Nipissing Diamond was found in 1903 to 1905. So the Bishop family went down to the Sudbury, and they went through they spent weeks there. And what did they find? They find very wealthy New York financiers that got on a train in the middle of the winter after it had announced that the Tiffany Company had sent people up to look for the source of the diamond. And where did they stake? They staked right where we found Kimberlite. So all of the sort of stars are aligning for us. We found the old wagon road. We found a trench on the wagon road in the middle of a granite outcrop that shouldn't be, a granite body that shouldn't be there. We found great indicator minerals in the creek that runs from the pond down to right through the Kimberlite, we found out later. So by tracking the ownership of the claims, the historical, we sort of put a puzzle together. Where could it have come from? Because our professor said it came from cobalt. That's all we remembered. And so I don't know how he knew that story, but he told us that, and that was in 1973, 74 when he told us that story. My brother went there in 1969, and Dan Atchison said the same thing to him. So it was cobalt. So that's what really intrigued us, is that could there be a source of that diamond in the Cobalt camp? And the indicators that the Bishop family found said there's Kimberlite there. And then we started to drill, and Kimberlite. And Peter Hubachek, I mean, it's just a joy to work with him, because he understands that camp so well. Between Gino and Peter, there's nobody that knows that camp as well as Gino and Peter. Nobody.
Well, Gino's a bit of a mining legend in these parts. You know, I think pretty much everybody in town knows who he is, because he's very politically involved and active. And like I said, he's got lots of connections. So maybe we'll just ask Gino. You know, Gino, there's been so much exploration around here. De Beers has flown helicopters for years at a time. 10, 15 years apart, we've seen exploration company after exploration company come in here and drill looking for silver and cobalt. And yet here's RJK popping holes in the Kimberlites, like Robert says, here and here and here. It's like, how did these guys miss this?
Because diamonds and Kimberlites, like gold and silver, is where you find it. Okay, that's the simplest way as I can put it, because companies, and I'll name them, De Beers had multiple efforts. Well, and through their proxies being monoproses, one that comes to my name that I recall back in the 80s. But you had most recently Sudbury Contact, which Peter was involved with, Peter Hubachek, at Trezor, Temex. They all had there was different stints of exploration in the area. What I can really say about it is that Some were successful in finding kimberlites and some found diamonds, but nothing big enough to quantify as a mine. But unlike these other efforts, and the most recent effort has been De Beers, actually. You mentioned that big airborne. They flew a massive airborne on both sides of the Quebec-Ontario border, all pretty much from North Bay up past Kirkland Lake, and on that same Rift Valley trough that creates the Temiskaming Valley, right up to Moosonee and out of Wapaska. It's all part of that same system. But and then of course they're on a different tangent, and a lot of these companies, they have blinders on. They have a tendency of model first and not exploring the ground second. And what we've done is that we took the information, did a lot of research. Kudos to the Bishop family, and you know what they did? They worked underground. They looked at for indicator analysis in till sampling, and they brought together a picture, and then they come up with a story that was believable enough that you have a company like RJK said, you know what, there's something to this. And then next thing you know, we've had success. But it's because we didn't put the blinders on and just tap into a certain model. You got to remember, it wasn't all that long ago that 30 years ago, there was not going to be an economic kimberlite pipe anywhere in Canada. And guess what? We know different today, right? Yeah. So what's interesting about RJK is that they're open-minded enough, and our team is like that because of basically who we are as a makeup, that we are not just going to be pinned into certain models. So like the con pipe is a different age. The newer stuff looks to be a different age and probably will be groundbreaking when it comes down to its age and methodology, how it was in place. And looks like there's an awful lot to it, because we're obviously getting into tonnages. They're going to be much higher than 100 million tons. And we're just starting out, really. And look at the success in such a very short period of time is phenomenal. And what's more phenomenal is how successful we've been in an area that's seen an awful lot of past exploration and mining for other purposes, also in the midst of a major cobalt rush that occurred here from 216 to 219, 220, which petered off, and now it seems like silver is more of an interest. However, here we are. We're in a major world-class mining area, and yet we're finding diamonds in this area. And just like Robert mentioned about at School of Mines at Haileybury, we remember our roots and our people that we went to school with. It's a brotherhood and sisterhood, and we stick together and we work together. And this is because of as it was indicated earlier, it's people that make the company. So your company's only as good as the people running it. And right now we're being very successful, and I can't see this stopping. There's nothing but good times ahead when it comes down to finding more of these, and hopefully we're all healthy and wise to see it go through. So there we are.
So it is all about people, and I would gather that's a big reason why you brought in somebody like Charles Fipke. Maybe Robert, you can talk to us about the decision to use Fipke Labs versus somebody else that's maybe a little bit closer.
Well, as Gino said, we all have a mining background, but only Peter had a background in diamonds.
That's right.
So any decisions like that were basically Peter's decision, and he explained it to us. But he knew Chuck Fipke. Chuck Fipke consulted when he was working with him on Sudbury Contact.
Okay.
And Peter goes back to 1982 with Chuck Fipke, using his lab when he was working for Pan Ocean. So you deal with your friends, you deal with the people that you know. And so we went to Mr. Fipke, and the first sample, he calls us one night at 8 o'clock at night and says, that little sample you sent us had 18 diamonds in it. And he said, and then he went on, we talked for an hour and a half about the chemistry and how it compared to the Victor mine and how the diamonds weren't going to be resorbed, and on and on and on. And again, a lot of that I had to listen to I had to study to understand what he said, because it was way above my head. But then he said, you send me a bigger sample and I'll tell you if you got a mine or not. I said, okay. So we start drilling, and we get 160 kilograms. But the problem we had with the drilling is we were getting some places 50% recovery.
Yeah.
So we tried to take the most representative sample. And so we sent that out to him. And again, he calls us, and right away he says the chemistry of that bigger sample is similar to the Litsang mine in Lesotho.
Mhm.
So again, we start looking up the Litsang mine, big diamonds, and the highest dollar per carat mine in the world.
Mhm.
And so you start saying 800 carat Nipissing diamond, chemistry is right. We got a diamonds in every hole.
Yep.
It's right on surface. And so you start to think, geez, maybe we have found the source of the Nipissing diamond.
Mhm.
So then Peter says, I think we should test this theory over here. Put a hole in, bing, we hit another Kimberlite. He says, let's go over to Gleason. I think that's another Kimberlite. Boom, first hole into a Kimberlite. Then he said, this one is the one that really intrigues me, which is the HSM. We named it after the mining school, the Haileybury School of Mines.
Yeah.
And the first hole, 20 meters at Kimberlite. The second hole, we got to 49 meters and we lost the hole.
Oh, wow.
The third hole was 20 meters of Kimberlite. We just finished a hole last night. It was 50 meters of Kimberlite. Full. I was out the drill this week, and there were crystals this big, Mike, of beautiful crystals of olivine crystals, Monticelli.
Yeah.
And you're watching these things drop out of the cyclone, and you think, could one of those things be a diamond? I mean, the stuff just sparkles coming out of the cyclone.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have olivine, you don't, and this is a very high end form of olivine, and it's like I say, the crystals are just spectacular. You've seen some in the core.
I've spent a lot of time looking under the microscope trying to find a diamond of my own. Let's not kid anybody.
and normally they're the size of a grain. These crystals are the size of a grain of pepper. These things were a quarter inch in size. These macro crystals. And so I said to Peter, do they normally grow that big? He says, no. He says that means that they're growing that big where other things grow that big. Then he looks at me. So, we'll see, Mike. I mean, it's still early, but I'll tell you, it's a pleasure working with this team. Everybody's got one vision, and that's to find a mine in the Cobalt Camp.
Well, you have a heck of a team, and all you guys have been awesome to work with. I mean, it's always exciting going out to the field. And you and I went out into the field to check out that RC rig, and boy, that's Gino. Have you had a chance to see it yet?
Oh, I'm planning to do that hopefully next week.
Oh man, that's an impressive rig. I'm not gonna lie, that thing gets around pretty quick. So, how's your exploration going right now with this RC, and what are you really trying to tackle and figure out here?
We'll probably do 80, 90 holes. We do 2 per setup on average.
Yeah.
And then, so we're going to be getting about 1,500 kilos dry weight per target. And then there's another target on the way out that we want to test. And if that hits, then it'll be the 8th target. But we'll find out. We'll know that hopefully next week. And so once we finish with that, Mike, then we still have to prep all the samples. We're getting a bunch of barrels sent up now to send them out to the lab. The lab will take a few months to analyze them all.
Yep.
but in the meantime, we've got silver. We've got silver showings on our claims. We've got cobalt showings on our claims. We drilled into a dike that we thought could be a feeder system that had 5% titanium oxide. And
You got
so,
ahead of me here a bit, Robert. I was going to ask about
Oh,
silver opportunities, but that's okay. But tell me a little bit more about this titanium and some of these showings, will you?
Well, there's metal there.
Yeah.
We've drilled into metal. I was there when the sludge turned black. I looked at the driller and he says, that's metal. I mean, I worked in the drills in 1969, and I remember drilling when the water turns black, you're in metal. And sure enough, it was 5% titanium oxide. It was in a dike. Nobody had ever seen that before.
So do you intend on following up on that?
Sure, but that wasn't our focus. Was strictly Kimberlites. Yeah, because it's everybody knows how hard it is to find one.
Oh yeah, and you found 7.
We found 7 so far. Yeah. So, and they, could be more. So that was our focus. Kimberlite was our first focus, but now we have that break between the RC machine and the summertime, where we were analyzing all of these kimberlites to figure out where do we go for a bigger sample. Yeah. And how big a sample do we take? Which methodology we're looking? We found a big trommel that we could use to get rid of the boulders. So again, we're thinking about the summertime, but in the interim period, we're going to start doing some diamond drilling. We're going to test some structures to begin with, test some of these dikes, because nobody's ever tested them before. All of Lorain Township, and Gino will attest to this, you could probably count the number of drill holes in the cobalt history on two hands. Yeah. And we've put in 30, 40 holes, and we found 6 kimberlites in Lorain Township. We found 5% titanium oxide. Yeah. We know there's silver showings, but again, that wasn't our focus. So now Peter's focus, while we're waiting for the results back, is to say, okay, we got targets along the Schumann Arch. Could be a kimberlite, or as Peter says, could be metal. Tony Bishop found gold, base metals, silver, and diamond indicator minerals in his sampling. And so we got to follow those things up. Yep. Al Kahn told us about the cobalt vein on the side of the Montreal River where they built the Houndshoots Dam. Nobody's ever followed that up. There are targets on Al Kahn's ground, EM targets that are spectacular. Nobody's ever drilled a hole in them.
This is an interesting dynamic to RJK. It's always been about the Nipissing Diamond, but I was going to ask that question in this interview. Actually, it was going to be directed at Gino. So, what do you think, Gino? Do we got more silver in the Cobalt Mining Camp, or what?
Well, we have a tendency of forgetting that we are in the Abitibi Greenstone Belt. Even though we're the southern edge of it, the reason that nobody really focused on gold and VMS per se is because of the type of geology we have here in the Cobalt Camp. Because, about 30, 40 kilometers south of here, you get into the Grenville Front, which is a different type of rock type altogether. But the idea here is that within the Cobalt area, you had an awful lot of the source rocks that have not been looked at because they're very difficult to access. And that's because the 2 main rock types that made it difficult are the amount of the Nipissing diabase silt, which in a lot of cases is between 200 and 300 meters thick and covers vast areas. And of course, Huronian Proterozoic sediments, which mask the basement geology. The interesting thing about kimberlite, it's younger than all of them, so it comes to the surface. So when we start looking at some of these other targets that are associated to the Cobalt Camp, in as much that we're outside of the main focus of where the original mining was completed or conducted from 1903 to about 1991. The difference is that just because they didn't find or didn't indicate that there has been mines outside of the main mining area, that there isn't other types of deposits. And it would be foolish to think that there wasn't, because there isn't. The point is that it comes down to exploration and money, and knowing the history of the development of the Cobalt Camp is paramount to understanding why things are where they are and why they are what they are. And the difference is that, hey, we forget that because you're a silver camp, just like back in the day when they found the Nipissing Diamond, you had the cobalt silver rush in 1903. You had prospectors like locusts coming through this area, and they staked everything so fast, and they do it physically. Today we've done it in a matter of seconds, but back then it took a couple of months, and then by the time they made the discoveries and then indicated what they had in those discoveries, took months. In some cases it took years to develop. But it also, the Cobalt Camp was the first mining camp in Canada that was spearheaded by the actual marketplace. And so the whole thing is, as this was going on, lo and behold, you have this Nipissing Diamond. Unfortunately, they probably couldn't get the land position. That probably discouraged a lot of people from looking for diamonds. But at that time, it was kind of a foreign type of thing to look at in Canada, because most diamond exploration was focused in South Africa. So if you know that, well, you can explain that. But over the years, exploration ebbs and flows and goes in cycles. Well, we've had some diamond cycles, but even if you look at some of the diamond cycles, they were unfortunately held up for real exploration, because a lot of it has to do with land tenure, whether you can get the land to explore or not. And in a lot of cases, we had a big issue here for about 20 years, and that was the Tamami land caution, which it started with rumors in 71, 72, and actually took place and got heavy right straight through, and only was lifted in whole in 1996. So you had all these trends that passed by the Cobalt Camp, where you couldn't look for diamonds, you couldn't look for base metals, couldn't look for silver, cobalt, except for those patented claims in the main part of the camp. So the whole area was basically passed over. And that's really what's happened. And now, hey, you still run into the same sort of problems. In some cases, it's a mining camp for silver, cobalt. So it's a real testament to the RJK philosophy and how we've been able to structure business deals to move forward in a very active camp, in a world famous active camp for a different commodity.
So 2021 is going to be filled with some different exploration. You're going to be looking for some silver, or testing structures rather. What you find, and you're going to continue on with the searching for kimberlites. But let me just get this clear, Robert. So you're sending these RC samples, and you want to get a clear understanding of how they differ from the surface samples. Will we be seeing two separate reports, or are you going to lump those together and start talking about it once you really fully understand what you have in these kimberlites?
I think, again, that's Peter's call. Okay. But his, again, he thinks very practically. Mm-hmm. You dig down a couple of meters, and you got, in some places, we got 50 meters of kimberlite. A very high-end kimberlite with full of olivine. So do we know, does the diamond come from the surface? Did it come from, is there a layer? Is there a enrichment zone? Yeah. So before we start doing any true bulk sampling, we had an opportunity, because one of our great shareholders lent us gave us his brand new excavator to use for, so we thought, well, let's go dig some kimberlite. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was fun. We had a lot of fun. And so we filled up some barrels, we sent it out. We still haven't got the report back. And Peter wants to compare that to going through the whole section. That's what I was wondering. Because like Fipke told us, he says you can get zonation in these kimberlites. and so again, I rely on, and Glenn and I and the whole team relies on Peter's expertise. Mr. Fipke's been just a wonderful guy to deal with. He's been so helpful. And Mike, we're just hopefully in the next week or so, we'll have all of our graphs, comparison graphs, with the, all the different garnets and where they test in comparison and things. We're getting that prepared for us because we keep getting told we have exceptional chemistry. So a lot of people want to see that. And and again, so we Mr. Fipke's working on it. We've got another consultant working on it. I've been talking to some of the different universities to get some Kimberlite out into their hands. Oh, I'll give you another little tidbit, Mike. So we're in the drill, and Peter hadn't told me this. So I go into the RC drill, smelling it. I said, "There's an oil leak here somewhere." Peter smiles. He says, "No, that's from the Kimberlite." There's a very heavy smell of, it's almost like a roofing tar. When you get into the Kimberlite, you get this hydrocarbon smell, and you get a film of oil coming off the top of the decant buckets.
Yeah.
So we're going to send some of that out to find out. I mean, there's no oil wells in Cobalt.
No, why do you smell that?
Why are we getting hydrocarbons in the Kimberlite? I mean, if you're in Alberta, you're drilling the Kimberlites, or Saskatchewan, you could say, I understand that because there's probably a seam or something. But in Cobalt, there's no oil wells.
Yeah.
And so that's, again, very unique. And these big crystals of coming up in the RC. It's very interesting. Again, we'll see, but we've contacted some very high-end consultants, and once we get the analysis, they're going to come and start assisting us and developing a plan going forward. Like,
well, you've certainly given us a lot to chew on here. You got some nice structures, potential for silver, you hit some titanium, you're carrying on with diamond exploration. I mean,
one more, Mike. I got one more little gem for you. We get a call one day from Eagle Geophysics in Noranda. He said, "Can we come and see you?" So we said, "Sure." Glenn knew him. So he comes over and he pulls out a map, and right in the middle of our Kimberlite field, at that time we didn't know it was a Kimberlite field,
okay,
is an alteration zone that this geophysicist said that alteration zone in any mining camp in the world would have 10 drill holes into it, not one. So there's some heat source that's altered the rock, and nobody's ever put a drill hole into it. And and ask Gino, nobody's ever found the source.
I was just going to say that
600 million ounces of silver.
I can attest to that. I agree 100% with Robert that there has been past efforts, but we've also, we have new technologies that we only dreamed of having 30, 100 years ago. Let's face it. But when we went to School of Mines in Haileybury, it was always a topic of conversation in every geology class, because our tours and our geological trips, field trips were in and around the Cobalt area. So every person that went to mining school in Haileybury got schooled up on the Cobalt camp. Yeah. And the first thing you keep asking yourself, well, you see all this silver, where did it all come from? And there's been theories out there that have been purported since Miller Knight in 1922 to modern day. There's been hybrids models created for the Cobalt camp, but it does not explain where the silver comes from. Okay, these are secondary systems that are peripheral to a major heat source, and therefore there's got to be something. We believe there's something that will explain the source. And because of our open-mindedness in our team, there's a darn good chance for us to be able to find at least one or numerous possible sources. Because you got to understand, silver, cobalt, those type of veins can be found in one form or another in a very large geographic area, from basically just over in Quebec right over to Sault Ste. Marie, and then you get similar deposits like that in Thunder Bay for silver, cobalt. But there's got to be some kind of magma chamber or something thereof that's sourcing this at depth. And I think that some of the work that's been created by Eagle Geophysics and our team, hopefully that'd be one thing that we can zero in on in due course. And what's interesting, and guess what? You have that, plus you got world-class silver in the area, and then you have kimberlites and diamonds, which is the focus of our program. It's you'd be hard-pressed to show other camps that are like that. But you know what? We've seen this in Kirkland Lake you got Kirkland, you got Adams Mine for iron ore. You go up to Timmins, you got the gold mines. Oh, you got Kid Creek, which, by the way, is one of those sources that's peripheral to the gold camp and in the Porcupine Gold Camp. So in the cobalt camp, there has to be one or more.
Well, guys, you've certainly given us lots to think about, that's for sure, with silver and kimberlites and cobalt mining history. I really appreciate you taking the time today, and maybe as you advance the project, we'll catch up again soon.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds great, Mike. I really appreciate all the work you've done for us.
Love being part of this story. Thanks, gentlemen.